Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is a test run lecture. And if it works and you like it, this is what we're going to keep doing. I'll discuss that later. Right now, I just want to get into lecture. Okay. So this is for my lovely business math people that I miss dearly. Oh, I miss you guys to death. Trust me. Okay. All right. So we've been learning how to factor. So now we are going to use the factoring approach to solve quadratic equations. And I will send you the notes when I'm done with this lecture. So I'll send you a blank copy and I'll send you this filled out copy. Because again, I'm playing around and we're just going to figure out what's best. What's best for us until the apocalypse ends. So let's get started. Okay, so we are solving quadratic equations by factoring. Make sure the equation's in standard form. That means from highest power to lowest power. 2, factor completely. If there is a greatest common factor, make sure to take that out first. 3, after it is completely factored, set each term equal to 0. Then solve for x or whatever variable we are working with. And then to check your work, you can take your x value or your variable value, plug it into the equation. And if you plug it into the equation and it happens to be 0 or makes the equation 0, then we have solved for the variable correctly. So I was practicing earlier, so I did number 1 already, but we can go over that. So I'm going to zoom in on this. There we go. Probably like that. Okay. So number 1, x squared minus 64 equal to 0. X squared minus 64 is a difference of squares. So x squared minus 64, if you reference your squares chart, I believe I gave you, I think I gave you something like that. I hope I did. Either way, we know that 8 squared gives us 64, and since this is a difference of squares, it factors to x minus 8, x plus 8. And now you notice how they're both completely factored. No more factoring can be done. We set it equal to 0 and solve for x. That's it. Okay, I wonder if I can hide myself on here to give you more room. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, you know how to put, if you know how we had our meeting?
Yeah.
You can put them in Brady Bunch style.
Yeah, the gallery, right?
Yeah, how do you do that? Well, after you're done. Never mind.
At the very top, you hit speaker view.
At the very top, you hit, okay.
You see speaker view, and it'll turn it into gallery view. So at the very top of your screen on the right, you should see speaker view and exit full screen.
I can't see it because you're sharing.
Oh, because I'm sharing. That's right. Yeah.
It's okay.
So what do you?
Oh, wow, man, dude, you have nice penmanship.
I'm trying. What do you see right now? Just the whiteboard?
Yes. And I saw the little. You had like the markers at the top.
Yeah. Do you see my face at all or no?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, you got a mustache and
I don't want you to see my face, but whatever. I mean, I was trying to hide my video.
A couple of white heads.
If I stop my video, I can say hide self view. Do you see me now? No, you still see me, right?
Yes.
Which is fine.
It's okay. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, I'm still working with it. Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
Cool. Let me see if I can hide your video. Let's see. Chat, spotlight video, make co-host, assign to caption. No, okay, whatever. Okay, so I was just practicing factoring and doing everything like that, right?
Cool.
So trying to work on my penmanship. So I'm using OneNote. So here we are still factoring. So x squared minus 6x minus 16. These are the easy ones to factor because all you need to know are the factors of 16 that could make -6. So you can start with 1 and 16, 2 and 8, no 3, and then 4 and 4.
How about square root of 6 times square root of 6?
What was that?
Square root of 6 times square root of 6.
6 times the square root of 6.
No, 6 times square root of 6 times square root of 6.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. um, so we realize that if you add 1 and 16, you won't get to -6. So that is out. Oh, I can change my color too. I can say that is out. If you add 2 and 8, you get 10, or you subtract 2 and 8, you get 6. So these are going to work. And 4 and 4 give me 8, or 4 and 4 give me 0. So those are out. So 2 and 8 are going to be the factors we want. So here, based on the signs of your equation, minus minus means that you can have x plus a number and then x minus a number equal to 0. And input the 2 and 8 where you believe they fit. So if the middle number is negative, this means the bigger number must also be negative and the smaller number positive.
Okay, time out. Time out, sir. Time out.
Yes.
Okay, so the pictures are blocking what you're writing.
Then on your side, right?
Yes.
Then
Would it happen to the students?
I can. So what you want to do is grab the picture and just move it.
Okay, got it.
You can move it out of the way, right?
Okay, right. Because it's one of your numbers is not showing.
But is it now?
The 8.
Is it showing now since you moved the picture?
Nope. Oh, you can move the. That's
what I'm saying. Like move.
Oh yeah.
Move
like
us or minimize us so you don't have to see us at all.
How do you minimize it?
There should be a little minus sign at the top somewhere.
Oh yeah. I see it.
You see it? So if you minimize that, you get the whole screen.
Uh-huh.
Good.
Get it. Got it.
Okay. Now you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Beautiful. Okay. So you can FOIL to check your work, but I assume at this point we're experts at factoring. So, and we want to save time. So we are going to, and we can always check our work at the very end. We could plug it into the equation and hopefully it zeroes out. Okay, so this is correctly factored. And since it's correctly factored, you will set both terms equal to 0, both products equal to 0. So x plus 2 equal to 0, x minus 8 equal to 0, solve for x equals -2, and x equals 8. And box, and box, and these are our answers. Any questions? And you see everything clearly.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, should I make tilapia or salmon?
Oh, you pronounce the L now, huh?
Salmon.
Simone way, okay?
Simone.
Salmon, okay? Salmon. The L is silent, but with this pandemic, you're allowed to pronounce the L, okay? Okay, let me try with the smaller pen. Maybe that. Okay, so.
Are you using your iPad? Is that what you're using?
I am using my laptop as my scribble pad. Oh, I think I skipped number 3, didn't I?
Yep.
So that's going to be here. And if you want to see something cool, since I'm going to send these notes to the students, if I decide to zoom out, it looks like normal writing.
Cool.
And that's what I'll send them.
Nice.
Right? So there's that. So if I zoom in, it just gives me more room to play, where I don't even need a whiteboard anymore.
Does it take a long time for the video to load up so I can put it in Canvas?
For me, no, because I'm downloading it to my computer. If you download it to the cloud, it may take a while. I recorded something on the 16th, 3 or 4 days ago, and it finally came in. It finally came in last night to the cloud.
So put it on your desktop. Okay.
Yeah, but okay. And then what people were worried about is that if they didn't have enough room on their desktop, I'm like, let's say this recording took up a lot of space. What do? Well, that's where YouTube is kind of your best friend, right?
Yeah.
You can upload your video to YouTube and then attach a link to Canvas. Or you can upload your video to Canvas. I would just
Yeah,
be cautious of uploading videos to Canvas because everybody in the world is going to be uploading videos to Canvas.
yeah. So just
So
give the link.
a link is probably better because I don't know how much Canvas can hold.
Yeah, because I tried. It gave me the link to the video, but when I tried loading it up on Canvas, it just kept going and going and going.
Gotcha.
So I just have to wait then, huh? Till it comes in.
For the cloud,
The
yeah,
link.
but we don't want to wait too long because say you record now and your students don't get the lecture till 5 days later.
Yeah.
So
True that. True that. Okay.
all right, cool.
Oh, you have a twin.
Where?
Look, Robert
Oh,
Carrillo. Robert Carrillo.
oh yeah.
Wow, there's another one. Wow. What the?
Because I'm using the laptop, so I signed the laptop into Zoom, so I can use it as my notepad.
I get it.
Yeah. If I had Wi-Fi on my desktop, I could connect my PC to my PC, but I don't have a Wi-Fi adapter on my desktop, and I think I threw my old Wi-Fi adapters away. So
Oh man.
this is what we have to do, and it seems to be working so far.
Yep. Very good, sir. Alrighty, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna go make some food. You want some?
Oh, sounds good. Yeah, save me some, freeze it. You're gonna need it
All
for the apocalypse. Okay.
right. Thank you. Take care.
All right. All right. Later. Okay. So number 3, we want to factor this and solve it again, but it has to be in the proper format. The proper format is above on your paper, or I can write it here really fast and then erase it. Remember, our proper format has to be x squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. So the only number that should be on the right side is 0. Okay? Okay. So that's our proper form. I can do that. Look at this. Box it and say proper form. Ooh, proper form. Okay, I'm going to erase it now. Just remember that this is the proper form. Okay, which means to put it in the proper form, take 40, subtract it to the left. X squared plus 3x minus 40 equal to 0. Okay, and now we have to think of what factors of 40 can make 3. So you can make your list of factors of 40. And I have enough room to play around, so I can put 40 over here, make my list, 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 3, no, 4 and 10, and 5 and 8. That should be it. Okay, now which of these factors can get us to 3? Definitely not 1 and 40. Definitely not 2 and 20. 4 and 10 gives me 14 or 6, so 5 and 8 is going to be the winner. And now follow your signs. Plus minus are exactly that. X plus a number, X minus a number equal to 0. And since 3 is positive, the bigger number 8 will also be positive. And there goes 5. Factored correctly, set both terms equal to 0. And x equals negative 8. X equals 5. There you go. All right, that's 3, nothing else after that. Okay, number 4, let's keep going. Got a long road ahead of us. I don't even know how much has been recording so far. So, good thing I'm gonna upload this video to you so you can fast forward. Okay, so 4, 2x squared plus 3x plus 1 equal to 0. These ones aren't too hard to factor. You just have to know the factors of the leading term. The leading term's coefficient. So 2, easy enough. 1 and 2. Factors of 1, 1, and 1. Now our signs are plus plus. So I'm going to have parentheses, and I'm going to fill in the factors of 2 already because 2 is easy. It's 1 and 2. So I'm going to put 1x here plus and 2x here plus equal to 0. And like this one's super easy to factor because we put the 1 and the 2 in, and now only factors of 1 are 1. So I put a 1 there, I put a 1 there, factored. Set them equal to 0. First one's easy. You get x equals -1. Second one, a little bit of work. 2x plus 1 equal to 0. 2x equals -1. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. X equals -1/2. There you go. All right, still going. Okay, let's see. Hang on 1 second. I am live streaming my preview. Just for fun. If I don't break my internet. See, okay, let's keep going. X squared minus 100, that is another difference of squares. X squared minus 100. So what number squared can give you 100? Well, of course, that is 10. Remember to reference your squares, cubes, and fourth and fifth sheet. I believe I gave you. If not, while you're at home, you can use the internet. Okay, cool. So let me get back to this screen. There we go. Okay, and now, oh, I can do that. Okay, perfect. Okay, x squared minus 100, we're good to go. So since this is a difference of squares, and I guess I should have wrote the formula if you don't remember it, a squared minus b squared always factors to a minus b, a plus b. Okay, now continue this, you get x plus 10, x minus 10 equal to 0. It's solved. X equals -10, x equals +10. Done, done. All right, let me erase that. Let's keep going. 6, x squared plus 6x equal to 0. Okay, again, factor. Like the hint above on the top of your paper say, look for a greatest common factor. And here we noticed that x is our greatest common factor. So that's what we're going to factor out. And this one's a little different because there's no constant. Remember, the form must be x squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. On this problem, we're missing the constant of c. So we can just assume that c is 0. Okay? I don't want to make it any more confusing. So just understand that this one, well, these probably are the easiest ones to factor because x's are only factor. So I factor out an x and I'm left with x times x plus 6 equal to 0. Now it's completely factored. Nothing else can be factored out. Set both terms equal to 0. So a lot of students make the mistake and forget about this lonely little x that he factored out. That also must be set equal to 0. Remember, in math, you can't forget about your x's. In real life, sorry, sometimes, you know what I'm saying. Let's keep going. No distractions. So set those equal to 0. X equals 0. X equals -6. Done. Done. Excellent. There we go. We're making our way down. Okay. 7. All right. Again, we need to put it in standard form. We need to put it in its proper form. So we need to rearrange this with highest power. So fair enough. I'm just going to rewrite this as w squared minus 5w minus 6 equal to 0. And this one again, easy to factor. I'll list the factors of 6, 1 and 6, 2 and 3. And then we'll factor. Minus minus means w plus a number, w minus a number equal to 0. Okay, now what factors do we think make -5? Well, if I try 2 and 3, I'm probably going to get, let's see, if I put a 2 and a 3, I'm thinking I'll get a 1, a -1 or a +1. So to get -5, I'm going to go with 1 and 6. And since 5 is negative, I'll put my 6 here, my 1 there. Now you can always check it. You can FOIL. So you can have w times w, w squared, -6w plus w minus 6. And all of this gives me my -5w. So our foiling checks that our factoring is correct. So undo, 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 undo. Almost there, almost there, almost there. Correct. Okay, awesome. Since it's completely factored, correctly factored, set those terms equal to 0, and w would equal -1, and w would equal 6. Perfect. All right, let's keep going. All right, I'll probably, no, I can work those two. No, I can leave it open to your interpretation. I will do number 8, and then we'll move on from there. Or let me see how much is left. Yeah, I think I'm taking too much time on these, possibly, but 10 looks doable for you guys. 11 is just like number 7, rearrange, and 9 is just like number 3. You have to rearrange as well. Yeah, 11, 9, and 3 are about the same. So I definitely recommend you trying those out. I don't want this recording to be forever. Okay. All right, so do number 8, 12, and then we'll move on. Okay. So once again, factoring, number 8, look for your greatest common factor. So we start with the constants, the coefficients. You have 30, 2, and 112. So the biggest number you can take out is a 2. And then while you're at that, your other one, you have a y cubed, y to the 4th, y squared. See what I didn't do? I didn't rearrange highest power to lowest power, but it's okay. You can still do it after we factor out. So let's try it like that. See, it's just another way of thinking. So I'm factoring the 2 out, and I'm taking a y squared out. So I'll take that from each term, and then I'll rearrange. Either way, we have to do it. So 2y squared from 30y is 15y. 2y squared from 2y to the 4th is a positive y squared. Plus 2 from 112, that is 50y. Well, 2y squared from 112y squared is 56. Now I'll rearrange. 2y squared times y squared plus 15y plus 56 equal to 0. Okay. And then factor the inside. So you want factors of 56. So I'll just write that over here. So factors of 56, 1 and 56, 2 and 28, 3, no, 4, what would it be? 4 and 14, right? Yeah, I think 4 and 14, and then no 5. Back. Here's where we left off. We were factoring this quadratic equation and took out the greatest common factor, completely factored it, and now we set all three terms equal to 0. Let me scroll up a bit for some more room. Okay, so here we are still solving for y this time. The last two are easy. You get y equals -7 and y equals 8. So those are done. And then here we are going to have to solve for y. So first we divide by 2. Divide by 2. We have y squared equals 0. Now on the next page is where we learn the square root method. So if we are trying to solve for y and I want to get rid of the y squared, I am going to square root both sides. This ends up becoming, well, the square root of y squared ends up becoming y, and the square root of 0 is just 0. There you go. We will learn more square roots on the next page. Okay. Excellent. I will erase this. There we go. Okay. So like that, and I said I would work the, which one? Number 12 is just like that one, so we can move on. Okay, great. Okay, let's move on. Now we get into the square root property. So the square root property says if b is a real number and a squared equals b, then if you square root both sides, so if I wrote on here, if I square root both sides, then a would equal plus or minus the square root of b, as shown. Okay. All right, so this is the square root property. And it is a faster method to solve for x than factoring. We don't want to ignore factoring completely, because if we have to factor, we have to factor. And you also need to know how to break down a radical, break down a square root, which we can review on as well. So let me move this, I'll make this bigger. Okay, x squared equals 50. Okay, here we go. So x squared equals 50. Using the square root method from above, I just square root both sides. And the square root of x squared is going to be x. And I get x equals plus or minus the square root of 50. Well, we just can't leave it like that. We have to break down the square root of 50. So, with that being said, you need to know what factors go into 50. So the way I like to break this down is, well, you can start with 2 or you can start with something bigger. Well, I think you can do 5 and 10, but I always go for the bigger number sometimes. Most of the time it works, 2 and 25. So I'll split this into the square root of 25 and the square root of 2. And then the square root of 25 becomes 5. Now with that breakdown, we end up with x equals plus or minus 5 times the square root of 2. 5 square root 2. And there's our answer for x. All right. Let me Continue. All right, so there we go. Move over to 14. Okay, same concept. We want to solve for x, but if we're going to use the square root method, it needs to be in the form of x squared equals some number b. So x squared has to be by itself. So with that being said, for 14, divide by 2, divide by 2. X squared equals 7. Okay, and then square root both sides, and x equals 7 cannot break down anymore. So you get x equals plus or minus the square root of 7. 15, same thing, square root method. We do it again. This time is x plus 1 squared. So this is in standard form. You have to just see all of this looks like the form x squared. It's not x squared, it's the form of x squared. Remember, that's the form we're going for in order to use the square root method. So that's what we look like. I erase that. And since it's in that perfect form, we can square root both sides. Okay, which means x plus 1, the square root of x squared plus of x plus 1 squared gives me x plus 1 equal to plus or minus. And now the square root of 12, same breakdown. Choose factors that go into 12. I'm going to say square root of 4, square root of 3. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 3 stays there. So what you're left with is 2 times the square root of 3. So plus or minus 2 square root 3. Okay, all that's left to do is solve for x. So that means just take the 1, subtract it to the right side. All right, so I just minus 1, and I get x equals negative 1 plus or minus 2 square root of 3, or plus or minus 2 square root of 3 minus 1. Either one. However you want to write that minus 1. Okay, so that's our square root method. Let me see, so I don't spend too much time on these. 17 and 18. 16 is just like 15, so that's not too bad. Let's see, I'll do number 17. No, you can do 17. That one's easy. Let me see, I'll do 18. And then I'll do 18 and I will do, let's see, 19. Oops. There we go. Okay, 18. Again, looking for that form of just x squared on the left side. So here we will divide by 4. Divide by 4, divide by 4. X squared equals 81 over 4. No common factors at all. So with that being said, you can square root both sides. Now, if you remember your square root properties, if I have the square root of a over b, I can make it the square root of a over the square root of b. So that's what we're going to do down here. So this becomes square root 81 over the square root of 4. And that becomes, since those are perfect squares, 9 halves. X equals plus or minus 9 halves. That was easy, right? Okay. So whenever we're solving for a variable and we square root both sides, we should always have a plus or minus. Okay, let's see. On, I said I can do the one that looks hard. Where is it? There we go. No, that one doesn't look hard. Down here. Okay, 19. So here we want to solve for x. So first thing we're going to do is isolate x squared. Okay, so the first thing we should do is add 8, and you get 3x squared. Yeah, it's ugly, but you get plus 20. Oh, you're not paying attention. Equal to 27. Then divide by 3, x squared equals 9. Square root both sides, and x equals plus or minus 3. There you go. Perfect. Okay, so that should be good enough for square roots. So treat 17 like 13. I mean, you can treat them all the same. It is exactly the same concept. They're just written a little different. 16 is just like 15, and 20 is just like 15. All right. So let me see. Now we get into every business major's favorite formula, the quadratic formula, because all it is one big plug and play formula. This is the greatest thing ever. All you have to know to use this formula are what are the values of A, B, and C. If you know A, B, and C, then you can plug them into the formula below. Okay, so since you're business majors, you don't have to worry at all where this came from. But if you do, I can make a video about that for you. For now, this is just a formula where you plug in the constants A, B, and C. Okay, so x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, cool. So let's take a peek at how to use this. Okay, so over here, number 21. Okay, so I hate using different variables, but it's fine. Let's just change this one up to make it look like the above. I'm just going to rewrite this as x squared minus 6x minus 1 equal to 0. Okay, because the perfect form we are looking for is this one, ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. So if you hate using all the other variables, just change everything to x. But this is the form we are looking for. Okay, now time to label what a, b, and c are. Let me go smaller on that. Yeah, that'll work. All right. So A represents the leading coefficient. So for x squared, which is our leading term, the leading coefficient is going to be 1. Then B represents the middle term's coefficient. So negative 6x is our middle term. So for B, negative 6 is the coefficient. C represents our constant. Remember, constant's the number without a variable, just the number. So C is negative 1. Okay, now you have labeled what A, B, and C are. So let's go ahead and plug into the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula starts out as, let's put a line here. Okay, the quadratic formula starts out as x equals, and it's going to be negative b. So you'll have negative b, and our b value is negative 6. So it's negative 1 times negative 6 plus or minus the square root of, and remember, when we are evaluating, when we are plugging numbers in, you always want parentheses, okay? Always want parentheses. So you're going to start with negative b squared, as the formula above says. So parentheses, negative 6 squared minus 4 times a times c. And all of that's under the square root. Now, all of this is all over, everything is over 2 times the value of a. Okay, now it's simplify, simplify, simplify. Okay. All right. Do I need more room? Whoops. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Gotta keep messing with these controls just to get used to it. Maybe. There we go. Okay, so now simplify time. X equals, and negative times negative makes positive. So positive 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared happens to be 36. And then negative 4, so negative 4 times 1 times negative 1. So negative and negative make positive. So 4 times 1 is 4, and negative make positive. So we get 36 plus 4, and everything is over 2. Students like to make the mistake of not putting the 6, that first number, over 2. And I can't show it here. It keeps erasing that whole line because it's part. Okay, but remember, don't make the mistake of just putting the square root over 2. Everything has to go over 2, okay? All right, now we're still simplifying. So this becomes 6 plus or minus the square root of 40 all over 2. And now we have to break down the square root of 40. Okay, so over here, I'll do that. Square root 40 becomes, pick two numbers. Let's see, if you do 4 and 10, 10 becomes 5 and 2. So yeah, that's gonna work. So square root 4, square root 10. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 10 becomes square root 2 and square root 5. And we can't do anything with those, so we leave it as the square root of 10. Okay, so with that being said, I come back and rewrite this. X equals 6 plus or minus, what we're left with, 2 square root 10. 2 square root 10 all over 2. Okay, now the last thing to do is simplify this. We look and say, can we go further? And yes, we can. The 6 can be reduced by the 2 in the denominator, and the 2 square root of 10 can be reduced by 2 in the denominator. So what I'm going to do is just separate it into 2 fractions. I'm going to make this 6 over 2 plus or minus 2 square root 10 over 2. And now, 6 over 2 becomes 3. And 2 square root of 10 over 2, your 2's cancel. So our final answer is x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of 10. And since you're business majors, I recommend typing this in your calculator to get a decimal answer. 3 plus the square root of 10, 3 minus the square root of 10. So let's try that somewhere. So I'll do it in another color. Let me see. Purple. So calculator work. Okay. So calc input. We want 3 plus the square root of 10. And I'll put the little approximation symbols because it's probably going to be ugly. And we want 3 minus the square root of 10. Okay, let me show you to type those in on your calculator. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen for now. So let me do this. And then, let me see. Oh, I can do that. How about that? View, stop share, and now I'm going to share this screen. I'm going to share my desktop screen, and I'm going to go first to the TI calculator that I tell you guys to buy all the time. Let me minimize myself. I'm gone. Okay, so here's the TI-30X Pro, or even the TI-30X Plus Math Print. There you go. So this is the blue calculator I always tell you to buy. So let's practice in typing 3 plus the square root of 10. So here it is, 3 plus, find your square root button, which is there, hit second, x squared, there you get the square root, type in 10 and hit enter. So it's going to put it back in that format. All you have to do is hit the double arrow approximation button. And there you go. Since we're business majors, we'll go to 2 decimal places. Since there's a 2 right next to it, ooh, I can even annotate on here. See, this is great. Annotate. Since there's this 2 right here, it means the 6 will stay 6 because if it's a 2, we don't round up or down. The 6 will stay 6, right? I mean, if you round 6 down, 6 still stays 6. So this is what we want, 6.16 for 3 plus the square root of 10. So I'm going to write that down over here. 6.16. Okay, and then let's do the same. Let me clear all of that. Clear my drawings, close annotate. Okay, and now back to the calculator. 3 minus the square root of 10. And I'm just going to hit the approximation button. Nope, broken. Okay, clear, because it doesn't want that in there. So we're going to hit enter first and then approximate. Negative 0.16. So I'm going to write that down too. Negative 0.16. Okay. Another fun thing, I'll show graphing calculator as well in a second. Hang on. So let me clear that. Okay. So when we were typing in the square root, if you want everything worked out for you, right? Which you have to know how to type it in. I'm going to do second square root, and it was parentheses, negative 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 1. The way I write it on my paper is the same way you type it in your calculator. Look how good that is, right? Okay, and then I hit enter. And look at that, it breaks it down to 2 square root of 10 already, which we had to do by ourselves. So when we did it, we got the square root of 40. Well, what's great about these TI-30s is that when I hit enter, it breaks the radical down for you already. Bam, there it is. No need to make a factoring tree like I've been doing, right? So there's that. Okay, so just some fun things about your calculator, right? Okay, I do not recommend typing in the whole quadratic formula in your calculator. I only recommend typing in the square root part as I did above, okay? All right, there's that, so I'll bring that down. And now if you have this TI-84, okay. TI-84. Okay, let me go out of here. Second quit. Okay, cool. All right, so we're gonna type the same thing in, but the only difference with this graphing calculator and the TI is that I think the graphing calculator automatically puts it into decimal form. So let's see. 3 plus second square root 10. Enter. Decimal number already. I don't think you can put it into, yeah, it won't put it into radical form. And then 3 minus second square root 10. The graphic calculator is like, I'm not dealing with that. I'm going to put it into decimals. So you deal with breaking down the radical by a factor tree. So there's your difference, right? Okay, and then the same thing, the square root work on the quadratic formula. Second square root parentheses -6 squared minus, and remember when you put subtraction in, don't confuse it for this symbol down here. That is the negative symbol. Up here, that's the minus symbol. That's what you want. So don't make that mistake or your calculator will give you an error. All right, -6 squared times 4 times 1 times -1 and enter. There you go. That happens to be the square root of 40 already. So unfortunately, it does not put it in that form. So be very careful if you're trying to figure out, well, it didn't put it in that form. Well, that's because graphing calculators don't like doing the square root form like the TI-30 does. Okay, but I guess I'll come back and show you this. Nope, quit. Okay, so now what if I said, let's see, 3, oh, that's the square root of 40 before breaking down. That's right. Remember, you still have to divide this by 2. Okay, so I would divide my answer by 2, and then I would add 3 to my answer. So I would say second entry, where's answer? And then there I get my 6.16. And then again, I would do my 3 minus, and then 3 minus 3.16, -0.16, the 2 answers we have. So just be very careful with that on the graphing calculator. Okay. Cool. All right, so I have those up. Okay, back to my Zoom where I need to stop sharing this. Now back to my laptop, and let's continue. Okay, so there's that. So that's how you use the quadratic formula. And yes, I'm going to do one more, and then that should be enough. On 22 and 25, you need to put it into the format above. I'm not even sharing my screen yet, sorry. Get this down, don't worry. This will be like cake during this apocalypse, okay? There we go. Okay, cool. Stop it. I don't want that. Stop. Okay. Close that thing. Stop it. There we go. Okay. 22. Gosh. 22 and 25. Just take the 4, move it to the left. Take the 15, move it to the left. That's how we get into the proper format of the equation above. ax squared plus bx plus c. Let me work number 26, and that should get you going. Okay, so 26, here we go. Same process, guys. All right, so yeah, I can keep using this. No, I'll go back to blue. That's a nice color. Okay, so here you want to know the first thing you want to do when using quadratic formula is label the values of a, b, and c. So a is 7, b is -9, c is +1. There we go. Now do a little separation, start the quadratic formula. x equals negative b, so negative 1 times negative 9, plus or minus, let's write smaller, the square root of negative b squared minus 4 times a times c. All over, everything over 2 times a. There we go. Okay, now simplify. First thing you want to do is the minus negative 1 times negative 9. So that becomes x equals positive 9 plus or minus the square root. And right here is where you can type it in your calculator or work it by hand. Negative 9 squared, that is a positive 81 minus, so now I have negative 4 times 7 times 1, so that is a negative 28. All over 14. Okay. Yes. I want 81 minus 28. That is 53. Ew, gross. Okay. So, yeah, right? Negative 4 times a times c. Yes. Okay. So x equals 9 plus or minus the square root of 53 over 14. Okay, square root of 53 does not break down. There are no other numbers that go into 53. So this is the way we can leave our answer. But like I said, since you are business majors, practice typing this into your calculator. Okay, I wonder what the difference in the markers are. I have no idea. Maybe that's just like what primary color you want. So I can just keep doing this and change the color. Why not? Okay. So again, calc input. Okay, so the way we're going to type this in our calculator is going to be, well, I'll show you on the screen. So I'm going to write it as 9 plus square root 53 over 14. Squiggles. And then 9. Ooh. Did I go out of my range? Is that why you're not writing? I have no idea. 9 minus the square root of 53 over 14. Okay, and let's go to my calculator view. All right, again, I'll show it on both. Stop participant sharing, and now I'll share this screen. Share, all the shares, okay? And let me pull up first the TI-30, the blue calculator, or the chromed out black calculator I told you to get, and let's type it in. I'm gonna hit clear. Oh, and can I get rid of this bar? I don't need it. No, I'll figure it out later. What's this button? No. Oh, there we go. Okay. Ooh, but no, it's better if I show the other screen. Oh, what did I do? Sorry, guys. I'm just messing around with stuff. Let's see. Well, you probably want to see the keys too. There we go. Okay, so we're going to type in what I just wrote down. So what's beautiful about your calculator, it has the fraction button, right? So you hit 9 plus second square root 53. And then use the down arrow over 14. Hit enter. And hit the double arrow, and we get 1.16. So that is for the plus. 1.16. And then, let's see. I'm going to do that. Hit enter, and it copies it. And then I'm going to delete that. And then I guess I should show. I'm not going to shortcut stuff. That was the shortcut, but you, I'll show you anyway. So I'll hit the fraction button again, and then 9 minus second square root 53 over 14. And convert to decimal, 0.12. There you go. That's how you want to type it in. Okay. Now stop sharing that and go to graphing calculator. Let's hit clear, clear, clear. Okay. So your graphing calculator, if it's one of the new 84, should have this button. Go to number, hit up, and right there, N over D. If I did that too fast, let me do it again. Hit the math button, go over to number, scroll up, and right there, the first option, N over D. Hit enter. And now type in what we just wrote. 9 plus second square root 53 over 14. Enter. 1.16 right away. Beautiful. Let's do it again. Math, number, first option, fraction. Now 9 minus second square root 53 over 14. Enter. Bam. 0.12 automatically. Now, let's say that your calculator doesn't have a fraction button. Then the way I write it in now is going to go for any other calculator that doesn't have a fraction button. Parentheses is what we start with. Who run the world? Parentheses, not Beyonce. Okay. 9 plus square root 53, close parentheses, divide 14. No. Make sure to move over, guys. Delete. Okay. Move over. There we go. Now close it. Then divide 14. There we go. 1.16. And then parentheses 9 minus second square root 53. Scoot over. Parentheses. Divide 14. Bam. There you go. And I believe that ends our lesson today. Hopefully I didn't take too long, and I will send you the notes of everything I have. I guess I can finish the other problems in the notes just to help you out. But other than that, this recording is over. I'll hit stop share. Well, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you have questions, Monday, I will be there. I cut my finger today. Look at that. Okay.